Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. When last Josh Pate of Josh Pate's College Football Show was upon us, he asked me how I was. The football season had not yet started. I had a smile on my face. I had a pep in my step. Now the football season has begun.
I don't remember the smile or the pep, for the record.
I was feeling pretty good. I was ready for another football season. And then they did what they do. And now we're here. And I saw one of the best college football games I've ever seen in my lifetime, whether in person or on television. And that was enough to satiate me. And Sunday was what it was. But you were on the sidelines for Tennessee, Georgia. It's early in the college football season, obviously. That is as great of a game, just objectively, as you could possibly have between two teams who had plenty of questions around them, I think, going in. And I really don't know what to do with either of them now.
Yeah, so classic game. I rate games, on the chalice scale, 1 to 5. That was a 5 chalice classic. We had 2 of them. Notre Dame, A&M was also a 5 chalice classic. So, yeah, that game last year, I said, was about as hard-hitting a game as I saw. And it lived up to the billing again this year. I think one of the comforts, strangely, that you try and take in a loss is a lot of times when Georgia beats a team, it's because the team was physically inferior. Georgia leaned and leaned and leaned, and the wall eventually gave way in the fourth quarter. Agents calling me. The wall eventually gave way in the fourth quarter. That is not Tennessee. That has not happened to them the last 2 years. It did not happen this year, especially. So that's great.
That is a fine.
Yeah,
that is agents calling him. Yeah. That's absolutely a fine. Pay the fine.
However, it's interesting that I mentioned Texas A&M because I think there's a lot of correlation between Tennessee and Texas A&M right now. Mike Elko and A&M had been told forever, accurately, they don't win those games. They don't win those big games. And so they go up to South Bend and Buckner drops an extra point attempt and then they score and they execute and then they go win 41-40. Huge deal. Okay, so now the whole cannot win the big game thing is off their back and now anything is possible. I wouldn't have felt any different about Mike Elko if they lost that game, 41-40 the other way. It's just that he needed that proof of performance to convince a certain portion of his population and maybe the college football public. I think Heupel still needs that. He got it against Alabama, so he doesn't need it as much, but he still needs it against Georgia. But it's not 38-14 every year. Like this one was as close as it possibly gets to the point where the opposing coach walks in his press conference and the first words out of Kirby Smart's mouth are essentially, yeah, I'm not sure we deserve to win this game. So, he knows when someone landed several blows across his chin. But, that's the thing about Georgia. You can match up well with them. You can execute. You can match physicality. You got to do all this stuff, and you could still lose to him. So you said you don't know what to do with him. I think that's a fair way to look at it because I come out of it, and I certainly didn't expect a game played in the upper 30s. I didn't expect you to need 40-plus to win this game.
Vegas, by the way.
Sure. It's two. Again, same way as the Notre Dame A&M game. So you're asking yourself, what do I do with these teams? Well, number one, I put a little chalk tally in the W column for Georgia. I put one in the L column for Tennessee. Relative to what I talked to both of you about in this studio in August when we were tossing around expectations, I'm way higher on Tennessee now than I was in August. So I kind of feel the same way with Georgia. Like my biggest questions clearly about Tennessee was going to be Aguilar, just that's common sense. But it was also going to be Gunnar Stockton, and I believe in Georgia's receivers, but do they really have the quarterback that can emphasize that as a strength? Yes, they do. Now we arrive at this weird conundrum where is Georgia's biggest concern defense? Is Kirby Smart's biggest concern defense? If that's the case, I guess I'm pretty comfortable with Georgia. And with Heupel in Tennessee, what are we talking about? We're talking about getting injured guys back in the secondary. Like it's pretty commonsensical. Again, if you know Tennessee's roster, you know who they were with and without. You know that Georgia's got one of the best offensive staffs in the country, contrary to what their own fan base will tell you sometimes. And they picked on a guy, and they exposed a weakness, which is what the good staffs do. That may not always be a weakness for Tennessee this year. So you regroup, you go take care of business against UAB. I was one of those weird games where I walked away feeling pretty good about both teams.
I need you to know that literally as you said that, Emmett Jones in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube said, I'm not sold on Georgia's offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo. Didn't like him as a quarterback and don't like him calling plays.
Well,
sir.
I mean, right on cue.
Sir.
Look, sometimes You got to drop half 100 to impress people. Sometimes
They didn't do it.
Sometimes 38, 40, 41 just ain't enough.
Not enough.
I will say this now. Bobo's gotten a ton of criticism from Georgia fans. In this game, the last 2 years, he's put on clinics against Tim Banks. Like he has owned Tennessee's defensive staff in this game with Carson Beck and now Gunnar Stockton the past 2 years. Beck was much maligned last year. He had the game of his year against Tennessee. It could be that we just saw Gunnar Stockton have the game of his year. We just don't know it because we hadn't seen the back 3/4 of the season get played yet. So everybody trashes Bobo, so all I need to do is think he's okay, and I'm automatically way higher on him than the rest of the world that knows more than Kirby Smart does about how to run half of his program.
Extremes are everywhere in sports dialogue, no question. How much blame is fair blame for Josh Heupel for not the way that the game was lost, because the field goal obviously was missed, but the things that led up to the field goal? They have the penalty that sets them back even further. The kicker makes a more difficult kick in the overtime period. But from your perspective, what is a fair dialogue around Josh Heupel today?
Mild criticism and massive amounts of praise would be the fair trade-off there.
I feel like that's fair because, I mean, Lucas was saying yesterday on the show that he felt better about Tennessee's football team this year yesterday than he did on Friday. And I'm looking around at the little things that accumulate throughout the course of the game, and I'm like, there's so much net good there from them that it's really difficult for me to see all the outrage around Josh Heupel, and there was a fair amount of outrage. It's not like Vol Twitter isn't prone to outrage.
Yeah, I haven't seen outrage. I'd love for you to send me what you're talking about.
I'd be happy to.
There was criticism for sure, and you were on the sideline. You were front and center after the sack fumble.
Get in the back row.
When now let me say, so for those who don't know,
you're a pervert.
We were sitting up there in section Q.
Why are you watching him?
And I see,
mind your own business,
the very recognizable back of Joshua Pate's head on the sideline right below us. So I said, I'm gonna zoom in on a video and just let Josh know that I could see him. I mean, the second I started recording, Savannah starts rubbing your back. And
it's what you do in between plays. What else do you do?
I had a moment of, I don't know if I should send this to him. I felt strange about it, but I did anyway. So
I loved it. It was hot. I loved it. It was great. You want to avoid it, hurry up more. Yeah. I got too much time between plays. And that lovely lady is my wife, after all. So that's just what you do. It's just what you do. I encourage that. I want you to send me more of those videos. You know what? In a very public setting, I do. Because if I get that through a windowsill late at night, like, I don't know. But I saw the video.
Not out of the question. I've told you about the shrine that he has to you in his home.
You know how sometimes your friends say stuff to you that you think, there are other people in my social circle I would never accept that from. You're just one of about 12 to 13 people I would accept that video from.
Well, that's good. Hook me up with some tickets to Michigan, Nebraska. We'll run it back. Joshua Joseph sacks Gunnar Stockton. He fumbles. Tennessee takes over. Up 5, fourth quarter. You've got an opportunity there to score a touchdown, make it a 2-score game, and effectively end it, barring a miracle. Or kick a field goal, make it an 8-point game, still one possession, which is what they ended up doing. It went run. Heupel talked about the too high safety look there, that they felt like they had a light box. They liked the matchup. What did you make of that decision to take out that tool that he really flexed last year in his tool belt of game control, being able to run the football when they want to, when everybody knows they're going to? What did you make of that moment there of settling for the field goal rather than going for the kill shot?
I didn't mind it. Because here's the other thing. When you're around the best defensive staffs in the country, Georgia clearly being one of those, but you can apply this just as much to the NFL as well. You hear after seasons, when you're looking back at key games and key moments that turn seasons, normally it's like an interception or a turnover, you hear these defensive coaches talking about how we had this look, this pressure package, this combo coverage that we saved, and we broke it out in this moment where we needed to turn a game, okay? Now, I can never prove this because you can't prove a counterfactual. But if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm sitting there thinking, Joey's played really good today. He is still a guy who has played a grand total of 2.5 or 2 3/4 games in this system. He's facing maybe the best defensive mind he's going to face all year. I could push the envelope here, and I could risk one of those documentary moments happening wherein I give away a sure 3 points, or I can trust my defense here, and I can trust their first-year guy is not going to drive the field and score 6 and then tack on 2 more, and we're in Neyland Stadium. Like, I just run the calculus in my head. There is no 100%. There is no surefire. I think percentage-wise, it's the right philosophy to have, if that makes any sense. Like, if I told you, I've got 3 coins here. 2 of them are heads. 1 is tails. I'm going to put a cup over the coins. I'm going to pick 1 randomly out of there. You're going to guess heads. There's a 33% chance you're wrong. Doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It's just sometimes odds can be in your favor and you make a decision in proportion to those odds. It just doesn't work out for you. I mean, the other guy is allowed to try really hard as well.
So Tennessee to you is a college football playoff caliber team after watching that game on Saturday.
They're certainly one of the 12 best teams I've seen play this year. And so by that metric, yes. Now, actually including the follow-up, because they've got a much more navigable schedule than a lot of these other teams in the SEC. So I won't even put a caveat on it. Yes, they are a college football playoff team to me.
Where are we on Vanderbilt? And I know there are plenty of people talking about Lenora Sellers getting knocked out in that game and the fact that South Carolina was struggling both with and without their starting quarterback. But where are we on the Commodores?
Well, they've blown everyone out so far. If they had another logo on their helmet, they would be ranked top 5, conservatively top 5. If they had a Buckeyes logo, Bama logo, they'd be the number 1 team in the country. So I hate that Lenore Sellers got hurt for obvious reasons. I also hate that he got hurt for Vanderbilt selfish reasons, because I think Vandy would have won the game anyway.
Yeah.
And I think a lot more would be talked about because they won it instead of, yeah, but. It wasn't a yeah, but game. However, if I'm right about that, if I'm right about the profile of that team, that just means they stay hidden a little bit longer. Now, there's no excuse for them to be hidden because they're not an unproven commodity. We saw them last year, and it was with the same head coach, same staff, same quarterback. It's just people get a lot of amnesia after seasons, and they forget stuff. And so I'm convinced 95% of the public, maybe even including the SEC fans, reverted their Vanderbilt opinion back to the default, which is they're the bottom shelf. They're the one you want to be coming into town when you need to get right. Well, Virginia Tech thought that. South Carolina thought that. And they both got drug in their home building. Now, you could look at Vanderbilt's schedule, accurately so, and say, yeah, but the competition level is going to ramp up for them. Yes, it will. No, they won't buzzsaw that schedule. Here's the key difference. It used to be that Vanderbilt had to play blank, 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 blank. It still is the case that they have to play Alabama, that they have to play LSU. But it is now the case that Alabama has to play them, that LSU has to play them. That's not one where you pencil in the W and you say, oh, could we rest guys here? Could we work on some stuff offensively in the second half against Vandy? No. Actually, they've been able to work on stuff in the second halves against teams so far this year. So they're like a serious contender. That's what they are. It's also, I think, the story in college football right now. Because of what I just said, they're not flash in the pan because they're duplicating the performance. In fact, I think they're a higher performing outfit now than they were last year. So that's upward mobility. You're doing it at a place that, of course, all conventional wisdom says you have no business doing it at. The third thing is anybody who's ever had a blip of success at a place like Vanderbilt was in the job market conversation for any and every job that's open or may come open. But you've got such a unique dynamic with Clark and his attachment to the Vanderbilt program that he may be there a long time, no matter how much success he has. Copy and paste that for Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. Just perfect confluence, right guy, right time. And you haven't even seen them challenged in the fourth quarter yet. And it's Vanderbilt. And you got a lot of places out there that people like me expected a lot from. Florida, one of them.
Yeah.
And I've watched them fall well short of expectation. And Vanderbilt is performing with expectation, not sneaking up on anybody. Inferior roster 7 or 8 out of the 12 games they'll play this year, including the one they just played, by the way. And it didn't matter.
That's the other part of this, the other side of the coin, I guess. Not just Florida, but 2 teams on Vanderbilt's schedule. Alabama, maybe it's just the visceral nature of what week 1 and that loss was. Maybe they'll end up being fine. What are smarter people than us, or at least the 2 of us, talking about with Texas? Because Arch, and I didn't see the game live. I had to go back and watch a condensed version after the fact, so maybe that's not the full picture. and I've seen the prior 2 games of what he's looked like, and okay, fine. You know, it's a very unproven type of situation. But what is the dialogue around Arch Manning?
That he's not good.
Is that fair?
Well, yeah, it's fair. Man, I actually don't encourage you to go back and watch the UTEP game. I mean, unless you want to punish someone, that is football Chinese water torture. It's bad. It's really bad. So you would think he's injured, but they are emphatic that he's not hurt. And if he's
combative, even
dude, if he's not hurt, then he's just a bad quarterback. He is not a good quarterback. It's basic accuracy stuff. It's stuff where Sark can't really do anything more. 2 things. I think number one, the other big talk in the scouting world is they lack top end speed at receiver, and I think that's true. But even having said that, Sark can just scheme guys open. But the problem is he did it. He did it in week 1. There were guys open against Ohio State, not running free, but I mean, they created plenty enough separation to be able to get a ball to him. Guy couldn't get the ball to him. In that case, he wouldn't even pull the trigger and throw it. In this case, against UTEP, they got guys open all over the place, and he's just missing them to the point where you look at it. Savannah was walking through the living room as I was watching the Texas UTEP replay last night, and she just said, "What's wrong with him?" And that's someone just passing through the living room, not even paying attention. She said, "What's wrong with him?"
Then she started rubbing your back.
That's exactly what she did. Yeah, no cell phone video to prove it this time, but that's exactly what she did.
You don't know that. He just didn't send it to you.
Yeah. So they keep on talking like you would talk if you know something everyone else doesn't know. If you know, everything's going to be fine. I don't know that everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know that magically gets corrected. Maybe they do know something. Like, for instance, at LSU, Garrett Nussmeier's hurt. This was known before week 1. I kept my mouth shut on it because they didn't publicize it. But he had an abdominal issue, which makes it all the more impressive they went and beat Clemson on the road, by the way. But that's been known. So if anyone's paid attention to me talking about LSU, I have not criticized Garrett Nussmeier. Hadn't done it a single bit. I've praised defense. I've, talked around the quarterback position because he's limited. I know that. And I think maybe once they get to their bye week, maybe he gets better. I don't know anything like that with Arch Manning. There is nothing that's being whispered. There are whispers of injury behind the scenes, but they've been batting them down publicly. So if you're going to bat them down publicly, I don't really know where else to go on that. And I do know that Texas eventually has to go to Gainesville. And for all the terrible talk about Florida, none of it's defense. That team's given up 2 offensive touchdowns the whole year. They eventually got to go to Athens. They eventually got to play Ole Miss, I think. They've got a lot of big games. They got to play Oklahoma in Dallas in a few weeks. So the last portion of the soft part, the underbelly of their schedule is right now, and they've looked bad. And now it ramps up. And for anyone who thinks Texas can't lose 3 or 4 games, you only think that because you based and predicated your entire expectation on high-level quarterback play. If they don't have that, they're not what you expected or what I expected, at which point we've seen, if you believe the SEC is very compacted at the top, which it is, it's a very quick fall from number 1 to number 8.
More Josh Pate coming